Greetings to anybody watching this video. In the next few minutes or so, I will explain what a VO2 max is. That term gets thrown around a lot, and I think people have an understanding that it is a measure of fitness, but let's define what it is in regular English. The V stands for volume, O2 is oxygen, and max is, of course, maximum. So simply put, VO2 max is the maximum amount of oxygen your body can take in and use. It is measured in milliliters of oxygen per kilogram of body weight per minute. The more oxygen you can take in and use, the more work you can do. Simple enough. So how do I figure out my VO2 max? The Fick equation states that VO2 max is cardiac output times the difference between the oxygen content in arterial blood and the oxygen content in venous blood. Even with this formula, we don't have enough information to figure it out on our own. An actual VO2 max test requires an exercise lab where you ride a bike or run on a treadmill while wearing a mask that can measure the amount of oxygen and carbon dioxide you're breathing in and out while monitoring your heart rate. That is really the only true way to measure your VO2 max. Everything else is an estimate. As far as estimating your VO2 max goes, there are various online calculators to give you an estimate. There's also an equation 15 times maximum heart rate divided by your resting heart rate, and that's another way to estimate your VO2 max. The submaximal treadmill test we take each year at Wellness will assess how many METs you can perform. Generate, achieve, I'm never sure of the right word there. Anyway, 1 MET is how much oxygen you are using at rest, which is estimated to be 3.5 milliliters of oxygen per kilogram of body weight per minute. MET stands for metabolic equivalent of task, and it is a measure to compare the energy expenditure of certain activities with the energy expenditure of rest. So, if you multiply the METs generated from the treadmill test at Wellness times 3.5, that is another way to get an estimated VO2 max. Also, Apple Watches can tell you your estimated VO2 max. Technology is not my strength, and I have no idea how accurate the Apple Watch is. But I would love to hear anybody's thoughts on it. Why should I care? Like any measurement, a VO2 max, whether attained in the lab, on a submax treadmill test, with a simple formula, or from your watch, can help you to track your progress. If improving your VO2 max is a fitness goal for you, then put a plan in place to improve it and definitely track it, but use the same test at the beginning and at the end of your training cycle. Don't use your watch at the beginning of the cycle and then go to a lab at the end of the cycle to get a VO2 max and compare the two. Use the same method of measurement at the beginning and at the end. And just to give you a rough idea of a range of VO2 maxes, regular humans are generally in the 30s all the way up to the 60s, depending on their age and fitness level, up into the 70s, and we are starting to talk about elite. The highest VO2 ever recorded was by a Norwegian cyclist named Oscar Svensson, who recorded a VO2 max of 96.7 milliliters per kilogram per minute, which is just insane. To sum it up, VO2 max is simply a measure of how much oxygen you are capable of taking in and using during exercise. That's all I got. I'll see you next week.